So I'm Dan Lines. I'm currently living outside of LA. I'm originally from upstate New York. I'm the co-founder and COO at LinearB. And previously, I was the VP of engineering at CloudLock. I have a fairly extensive technical background. I've been a developer, a team leader, a director of engineering, did a lot of customer success and support interaction as well. And kind of how I contribute to the community and what I'm interested in is I love people, how they work together, their processes, different methodologies, and kind of what it takes to be an elite engineering dev team that wants to deliver great software. So the way that I discovered DZone was really just by searching around, like, the typical Google stuff. But the thing for me is there's not many engineering communities out there that I think are great. And when I came and I found DZone, I felt like the content is so good here. The community is highly intelligent, highly engaged, and therefore I want to do my best to put my best work out there so I can get those comments and feedback. And that's actually how I fell in love with DZone as a writer. Now, my content is usually in the Agile area because that's where I am talking about how software teams work together, the latest and greatest of different work methodologies. I talk a lot about metrics and being data-driven. A lot of what I'm doing at LinearB, where I'm the co-founder, is around enabling engineering teams to work the way that they want to work. So you'll find a lot of my content in the Agile section. So I'm very honored to have DZone be called the Dan Zone sometimes. And, it's awesome, the people that are reading the stuff that I'm writing. I usually always try to write about my own experiences, make sure it's really coming from the heart, make sure, it's genuine to what's happening in the dev community now. And what I really appreciate is the comments. So, I'm interacting in the comment section. I'm meeting people on, different Zoom calls, if they ping me on LinkedIn or hit me up over email. So, that's been amazing for me. So yeah, really just like that interaction, because DZone has such, I would just call it intelligent, people they're reading. And that interaction is what I'm looking for. And that's what I really love. I wrote an article about my experience being promoted from a developer to a team lead. And whenever you write an article, or whenever I write an article on DZone, I never have the intention of it to be, hey, I'm going to write this so I can be a keynote speaker, or I'm going to write this so I'll get, 50,000, 100,000 views. But that is what happened with this article, which is unbelievable. I'm super honored to be a keynote at the TechWell event. And I really just think that article resonated with the community, because lots of people, lots of developers are out there saying, well, what does it look like to be promoted? How does that actually happen? What would that that dev manager, that tech lead role really look like for me? And when you start talking about career journeys and what it takes to make that happen, what I found is that's where you get a lot of people engaging. So, that's what happened to me with the, I call it the promoted article, the dev lead promoted article. So I'm the COO and co-founder at LinearB. And the way that I like to describe what we're doing at LinearB is we provide a software that allows engineering dev teams to work the way that they want to work. And what does that mean? Well, we all know about the Agile movement, that happened about 20 years ago. But what's happening after the Agile movement? Well, what's happening now is what we like to call asynchronous development. Development teams, they want to be able to work on their code and have their status updates for their projects automatically happen. They don't want to have to verbally give a status update at a stand-up. They want everyone to have that real-time visibility. So for example, that's one thing that we do. Another thing in this, remote asynchronous world, we always care about our code quality and our risk, but we want that information to be pinged to us, for example, on Slack or whatever chat communication tool that we're using. So LinearB will let you know while you're developing, hey, this code's a little bit risky, or hey, you know, this pull request has been opened and no one's jumped on it yet. Let me get a ping notification in Slack. And that, again, lets developers work the way that they want to work. And the third thing that, you know, is happening again after kind of the Agile movement is we're a data-driven world now. If I'm an engineer or I'm an engineering manager, I want to be able to advocate for what's important to me. Like, for example, my non-functional work or my testing work, or I might want to, you know, re-architect this area of the code. But if you're not coming with metrics, like, for example, how this is going to improve your cycle time, it's very difficult to have that type of conversation with a leadership team. So LinearB provides important metrics for engineering teams so that they can have those great conversations. So when you're a developer and you're thinking about being promoted, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do I want to be promoted to an engineering manager? That role is much different than the development role. There's another track that you can take, which is, you know, more on the technical side and being a technical leader and being an architect. So first and foremost, you have to decide, which track do I want to follow? Now, what I wrote about is the track of being an engineering team leader, being a manager, being a leader of people and of software. And I think there's a few tips that I can give around that. The first tip that I want to give is that think about expanding your awareness of what's happening, not only with your software, but how your organization works. So on the software side, you need to really know your system end to end. Try to learn a little bit about each area of the software, not just the area that you're responsible for. So if you're responsible for the front end, learn about the back end. If you're responsible for the back end, learn a little bit about the front end. Also learn about the process. What does it take to get code out to production? How does our QA team or our automated test team actually work, even if you're not on that team? What does a deployment look like? Expanding your awareness of the system outside of just the area that you're working on as a developer are one of the things that's really going to help you get promoted. And also, if you do get promoted, start doing a good job from the beginning. The other side, if you're thinking about getting, like, you want to be promoted to an engineering team leader, is you need to think about people. When you're a developer, you know, 90% of your job is about, you know, coding and technical challenges and finding solutions to their technical problems. But when you become an engineering team leader, you know, 75% of your job actually has to do with people. Setting up your people for success, making sure you're unblocking their work, thinking about their career path. And that's something that, you know, no one really told me. I kind of thought, yeah, I'll have like more technical responsibilities and kind of just be setting the tone of where we're going technically. But no, you're really setting the tone of where you're leading your people. First of all, I did have a pretty accelerated journey from going from developer to a VP of engineering. I did that in a fairly short amount of time. It was kind of like a 7 or 8 year period. And when I first was a developer at the company, it was called CloudLock, a startup company. I was actually the second developer hired there. And when I was a VP of engineering at that same company about 7 or 8 years later, I had 75 engineers that were reporting up through managers that were reporting to me. And there's two things that kind of allowed me to do that I want to share. First of all, it does have to do with opportunity. I felt like I joined a great company with this, as a developer, with a great leadership team that provided me with an opportunity to grow at that rapid pace. You're not going to be able to move up to be an engineering manager or a director of engineering or a VP of engineering if there's not people above you that, you know, are giving you that opportunity. So you have to have that. So think to yourself, am I working at a place right now where the people above me care about me and care about my career path? That's really one of the things that allowed me to accelerate that quickly over an 8 year period of time. And the second thing that, happened for me, and this was coming from my CEO at the time, Gil Zimmerman. He was a great CEO and kind of my mentor. He always told me, find a way to say yes. So when an opportunity does arise, try to say yes to it. Don't think about it too much. Don't worry. Say yes and then figure it out. And some key examples, for example, if you're a developer, let's say that the support team wants you to get on a customer call and explain, something to a customer. Say yes. Go and do that. That's outside of your regular day-to-day developer experience. If you want to get promoted to being a team leader, you have to get used to talking to other people, to customers. So, find a way to say yes in the support area. The other thing that, really worked for me is expand your ecosystem. So when you're a developer, you might be working with other developers. But for example, you might not know, your HR or how hiring works very well. You might not know how budgets work very well. You might not understand the sales organization very well. Go and find and meet with those people. That's what I did. Make sure that you understand their role and what they're trying to accomplish, because when you become a team leader, your ecosystem expands. Those are the people that you're going to be interacting with just as much as your development team. And building those relationships and knowing what it takes for them to do a good job allows you to do a good job on your engineering team. That was a little long-winded, but I think it was good advice.
Yeah, really good. And then I don't know if there's like maybe one or two things, but as you look back on your career to date, like what are like one or two of your happiest memories so far?
So there's two times in my career that really stand out to me as being the happiest. So far, I've had a great career. I've been happy for most of it, but there's two times that I think I was maybe the happiest. One time is when I was an engineering team leader, and I was working at the last company, CloudLock. And the reason that I was the happiest in that role is I was getting the best of both worlds. I was at a point that I was highly involved in the code. I could influence the product. I had a great small team of people underneath me that were working throughout the day to build this great product for our customers. But I wasn't so high level that I had to get into all the things that happen at the executive table and, a little bit of politics and strategy. We were working hard together every single day, delivering this great product, and then taking breaks and playing video games at the office, on the side. And so being that dev team leader, that's kind of one of my fondest memories. And then the second one for me, to be honest, is when I founded LinearB, the company that I'm a co-founder on right now. And when we brought on our first few customers, that was a really good feeling. For me, I think if you're an engineer, you get a lot of satisfaction around solving problems for your customers. At least I did. And to see those first few customers come on, felt really, really good. So there's a lot of buzzwords around Agile and what Agile really means, but it comes back to me to kind of one thing. It's all around how developers and development teams want to work. If you think about why Agile was invented, it was one of the reasons is I don't want to read this huge set of requirements, code something for 6 months to 1 year, deliver it to a customer, and have them say, this isn't what I'm looking for. We need to be more iterative. And that's how, Agile kind of started for me 20 years ago or whatever it was. Now, if we're thinking about Agile in 2021, let's go back again to how the devs and development teams want to work. They want to work asynchronously and have asynchronous communication. They don't want to be interrupted with status updates. They still care a lot about their code and their code quality and risk management, but they want to be alerted to that stuff on the fly. They don't want to find out in production. We want to shift left. and they want to have data-driven improvement conversations. The old school Agile terminology for that is retrospective, but let's change it. Let's look at data and make a decision. Oh, and the last thing is they want to work in Git. They do work in Git, and they want their project management to follow how they work in Git. I'm coding. I'm putting a PR up. I'm reviewing the PR. I'm releasing. That's the development process now. So I feel like those four aspects are what we're going to see in 2021 when we think about Agile. And I wish I had a new terminology for that. I call it asynchronous development. So I did write about this in one of my blogs, but my all-time favorite band is Nirvana. It's my desktop background as well. I grew up in the 90s, and Nirvana is like a classic 90s band. And I remember my older sister, she's probably like 8 years old, telling me, hey, you got to check out Kurt Cobain. He's like the coolest guy in the world. So when I was growing up, I thought Kurt Cobain was super cool. And I like all of their music, so Nirvana's number one for me. Probably my favorite album for them is the Unplugged album, and they do a lot of covers and that kind of stuff on there. Iconic album, and I would probably say On a Plane is my favorite song. So I'm kind of a mix between sports and then some super nerdy stuff. So I'm a big sports fan. I follow Buffalo sports, so Buffalo Bills, NFL is my favorite team. I also like all the things that are happening in sports analytics. That's a little bit more on the nerdy side, but kind of like, okay, how do we measure, our players and our strategy in order to win the games? All that Moneyball stuff I think is super cool. And then for the non-sports related things, I just like reading about weird stuff. So what's weird stuff? I read a lot about space. I'm big onto the Voyager missions from the 70s right now and how all of that worked. I like reading about quantum stuff. I'm into quantum entanglement right now. Again, super nerdy, but that's the kind, and I like watch documentaries and that kind of thing in this area. So yeah, those are the two areas that I'm into. The movie that makes me laugh the most is Grandma's Boy. This is a little bit more of an obscure movie. It's a cult following. So this movie I think came out when I was in college, or I watched it when I was in college, and it's basically follows a team of developers and QA testers at a gaming company, and it's a comedy. So yeah, Grandma's Boy, my favorite movie. So the first programming language that I ever learned was probably Java. And then also Ruby on Rails. That's what we learned in school. And that's kind of in college when I really started to get into development. And then my first professional language, one of the languages is outdated now, but ActionScript is actually where I first started developing, doing like Flex and Flash related stuff back in the day. And then Python. Did a lot of development professionally with Python. Not a quote in particular, but I kind of have a mantra that I follow. I think one of the things that kind of gets people stuck or makes people not try that next thing that they want to do, like start up a company, is fear. It's scary to start up your own company. It's scary to go pitch a new idea to your boss. It's scary to go from being an engineering developer to a team leader. And kind of the mantra that I look back to is just go with trust. Trust that the universe will work out in the way that, it's intended. Go out and do your best, and whatever happens, that's the best thing that will happen for you, whether it's perceived as good or a failure or as bad. If you just go and try, you go with trust that things will work out for you, that kind of enables me to try new things. Two things that I really appreciate about the DZone core program. The first thing is sometimes us as, developers or more technical people, we have really, really good ideas. And it's hard to get those ideas out and written in a way that everybody can understand, all the way to what should be the best title for this blog post, even if the content is amazing. So I think there's a great group of resources and people in the core program that can help you express those great ideas. And the second thing that I like about the core program is just the people that are involved in it. There's a lot of smart people there. You can interact any way that you want to. You can interact over Slack. And of course, if there's like a particular topic that you're interested in, there's a group of like-minded people that, are likely to talk to you about it.